Well, as your humble narrator and filmmaker, I wasn't too happy with Bad Religion Into the Unknown. I don't think a whole lot of people were. It was a no-go for me, but when I listen to it now, I'm like, that's by far one of the greatest prog rock albums ever recorded by a punk rock band in the midst of punk rock in 1983. And I think they should play it live, but do an adaptation of just how they would play it as Bad Religion, the punk rock band, play the whole album. They probably get it done in 15 minutes. So I hope you enjoy the beginning of this tale. We're going to keep going here. Some of you know me as Richard White. I'm Lucky 3 of the Dude Ranch Outlaws. My grandfather was a huge country western star, touring with Hank Williams, Cliffy Stone, Les Paul, and Mary Ford, just to name a few. The list is too long. Here's a picture of him and his band. That's with Gordon Terry standing next to him on his left side there with the fiddle and bow. Very interesting. If you haven't heard the band, check them out. No Music, No Betties, No Lucky. Country western band. I released that album in August of 2021. Lucky White recorded from 1946 through 1968, so this album might appeal to all you country western cowpunk rockers. Definitely worth a listen. Check it out. By the mid-1950s, a new sound was taken over, and the old country western jazz genre was on its way out. Punk rock music was just a few decades away. This segment is an important piece to the puzzle. How and where did I find the forethought to capture a new band with a new sound within a genre that was underground and lacked mainstream interest? Well, I wasn't sure at the time. And there's gonna be a riot involved? You gotta be frickin' kidding me.
But you don't like my apples, make sure that you don't shake my tree.
I first heard Bad Religion's How Could Hell Be Any Worse in 1982. I had heard a few songs off their first EP from 1981 on KROQ's 106.7, but their 1982 album was stellar. It blew doors on those cartoon hair metal bands and their mushy love song ballads. Bad Religion's music had balls, a punch to the face, a kick to the crotch. It put hair on your chest. It was alpha male music. It was the perfect soundtrack to ride skateboards to. In 1982, there was this club in Sun Valley, California, by the railroad tracks called Godzilla's. A lot of bands played there. So did Bad Religion. I first heard them live at this club. I say I heard because I couldn't get in. It was overcrowded, so I listened from the street. I thought to myself, one of these days I'm going to film this band live and make them famous. Why would I think like that back in 1982? Well, one good reason was 5 years earlier, back in 1976, or was that 6 years earlier back in 1976, if you were counting? At John Muir Elementary School in Glendale, California, I was doing live video production for a show called the History Bowl. It was a competitive game show where you'd answer history questions with other students from the other schools for the win if you got the most questions right. I was trained by Mr. Robert Hall, the class instructor and game show host, on how to use the Sony Video Recorder, a camera that plugged into the video recorder's fly pack. It was a reel-to-reel with a playback option. VHS cassettes hadn't been released to the public yet. I eventually became a professional cameraman in college sports television, where I'd operate a hard camera and transported an 18-wheeler multi-million-dollar mobile unit all over the 13 western states, sometimes Chicago and Atlanta, Georgia. It was a good run. Yes, what a great year, 1988. I was 23 years old. I was thrilled to hear that Bad Religion was back together with both Pete Feinstone and Jay Bentley in the mix. Jay was one of my favorite bass players back in those days. I learned how to play every song on their 1982 release. I was so inspired that by 1985 I had helped form my own punk band called No Apparent Reason. I was the bass player, of course. We recorded a cool demo that was never really mixed correctly and was released on cassette only. You can hear it at the links in the show notes below. It's authentic punk rock, right out of the trash cans and into the garage. Their Devonshire Downs show was the band's kickoff for their Suffer tour in support of their 1988 album of the same name. They were going to perform live at the legendary venue, the same location that Jimi Hendrix played back in 1969. I had just got done filming the Red Hot Chili Peppers earlier in that same month. I was really looking forward to this show. Headliners, the Circle Jerks. Yes. And the Dickies. Who's the headliners? It's hard to tell. If you look down there on the left, there's real little Bad Religion and a real little Legal Weapon. They were also on the bill, with the elegant Patricia Morrison standing on the left of this photo. Definitely an excellent lineup. And when I recall, the last time I saw the Circle Jerks and Bad Religion was Friday, November 26th at the Galaxy Club in Fullerton, California. And if you notice the difference in the flyer, Circle Jerks, Bad Religion, really big headlining bands, all three of them actually. And you notice the one from 1988 at Devonshire Downs.
Bad Religion gets real little teeny tiny type with Legal Weapon.
That night at Devonshire Downs, the venue was sold out and over capacity with the doors closed. The fire marshal allowed the show to go on only because of the row of barn doors that were opened up to the outside fairgrounds. I was thrilled to be behind the camera for this show. Well, back in 1988, we didn't have no 4K HD fancy pants 1080p. I was using a handheld Panasonic PV420 VHS camcorder. I think it only had 420 lines of resolution. The quality wasn't the greatest. However, VHS was on the half-inch format. I would get a lot of constructive criticism from industry professionals for using this camera. I was spoken down to by many for the fact that I was not using a professional 3/4 inch camera. Let's take a look and check out how this camera ingested Bad Religion's performance at Devonshire Downs. Okay, take a deep breath as you all absorb this. That's raw audio off the camera mic. I wish I had been using a wide angle adapter for the camera lens. That would have improved the lens POV. Other than that, I think for what I had at the time, this was only perfect. Doing Time was the 6th song on their set list The crowd behind me was absolutely losing their minds over this performance. If you listen close, you can hear someone yell, "Yeah!" The audio mic on this camera was picking up the raw sound. There was no AI-assisted audio correction components on this camera either. If you notice in this segment, there were a lot of long-hair metalheads, skateboarders, and surfers in attendance. The entire youth culture of the 1980s from the San Fernando Valley was here for this show. We were all there to see Bad Religion's return from the missteps of their Into the Unknown era. One thing I've been well aware of for the last 36 years was that 10 minutes into their set, Brett appears to have a full-on defining moment. The thrill and reception from the crowd of fans. It was larger than what anyone had imagined. Not only had the band regrouped and launched their supper tour in support of the album, they somehow managed to get more fans at this show than they ever had in previous years. And they had the smallest billing on the flyer. The moment you realize that your newly reformed band, Bad Religion and Epitaph Records, is going to be huge. This is what Brett was looking at. It was packed. All the way in the back, side to side, all the way up to the stage. It was incredible. It was not only a defining moment for Brett and Bad Religion, but for everybody involved. Brett Gurewitz, Bad Religion, and Epitaph Records made a huge comeback on October 15th, 1988 at Devonshire Downs. It was clear to me that Bad Religion was on the path to securing themselves as the one and only punk band from the 1980s that would dominate the world within the punk rock genre in the 1990s and beyond. I had felt this way about them since 1982. They had a great network and support system, and a new decade was upon us. By the end of the decade, 2 more albums would arrive. 1989's No Control and 1990's Against the Grain. Extensive touring and hard work would follow. Being that the punk rock genre had not yet conquered the world, there was something missing, just one more element that was needed. Worldwide organic publicity. The type of publicity that money can't buy.
Let's go, homie.
We're here.
I'm sure all of you have had a little tumultuous time growing up.
He's up front, I saw him. Is that why we're waiting? We're waiting for them to announce it. Figure start going crazy, I guess.
Concert, all of these aisles have to be completely clear, and everyone has to be seated. Right, it just doesn't work in this theater. So the fire marshal has said we can't have tonight's show. So what we're going to do is everybody sitting out here with a ticket, we're going to do 2 shows tomorrow night at the Whiskey, one at 8 and one at 11. You can go to those, or people, relax, man. Let's not spoil all of Christmas with a ride, all right? Relax. There's nothing we can do. We've tried everything. There's nothing we can do, all right, to make the show happen tonight. You guys can have a full refund if you want. Hey, relax. Relax, relax. You want to hear me out? Please, people. You can have a full and complete refund if you want. If you can't go tomorrow, if there's any problem, you can have a full refund. All right? Otherwise, come tomorrow night and everything will be great. But right now, if you guys can just file out and head home, there's nothing else we can do. Please do it calmly. File out.
Good evening, everybody. Here is the latest at 6 o'clock on this last Sunday of 1990. A North Hollywood theater remains shut down tonight, less than 24 hours after a riot broke out at a punk rock concert. Firefighters stopped the music last night after too many fans jammed into the concert hall. As Linda Moore found out, the rioting fans went on a rampage, smashing windows and throwing bottles at the police.
Bad Religion didn't even have a prayer. They never even got on stage. But the opening act got the kids' adrenaline flying. By the time the fire marshal arrived to shut it down, concert goers were primed to react.
Nothing else we can do. Please do it calmly. File out. God, please, people, relax.
Trash, food, bottles took flight. Seats already kicked and bent to bits in the rowdy warm-up were ripped apart and hurled midair as well.
Hey, that's what you get for having me at a theater, man. We get our money back.
Multiple fire and police units surrounded the North Hollywood Theater. Police choppers circled above. The scene inciting some in the crowd even more.
Outside, it kind of got really rough. I mean, the security, I was watching people get beat up by security right next to me, and the bottles were being thrown.
Then the fire crews grabbed their powerful hoses and sprayed the kids to break it up. 2 officers were hurt, and an undetermined number of concertgoers also with minor injuries. A couple hours later, it was over, and it was a mess. 3 arrests, but only 1 for vandalism. While theater managers clean it up, the fire department will investigate. Officials allege not only was it too full, but it was not licensed for live performances. Bad Religion is going to try it again tonight at the Whiskey on Sunset, a theater designed for live bands, but even smaller. In North Hollywood, Linda Moore, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Then they threw rocks and bottles at firefighters and the police. 2 officers and at least 2 fans were injured by flying glass. Every day the headlines seem to keep getting worse. A country on the brink of war.
We also have broken marquee windows. We have glass all over the place. Newspapers, papers, everywhere. The box office, which has been here since before I was born, is completely shattered through. What happened is this, as you described earlier, there was a near riot here. that occurred when the police and the fire department tried to disperse over 500 people at about 8:30. The reason was they felt that the theater was over capacity. The only way they could do it was to ask them to leave, and they shut down the concert. At that point, people said no way, and about 200 of them started fighting, moving, pushing, shoving, and breaking windows and glass just about everywhere. In addition, the police dispersed the crowd, got away from here as much as they could, and then they started throwing rocks, bottles at the police. A couple of policemen were injured, and there was also a couple of arrests made. Only a couple of arrests from the people that were doing the rioting. The reason being that they could not determine just who it was that did most of the damage. Right now, this is about all we have on this report, but as soon as we get more information, we'll be sure to give that to you. This is Rick Romero reporting.
Overcrowded Saturday night, and they canceled the show before the band Bad Religion got on stage. 300 fans responded by ripping out chairs and breaking windows. Promoter Ryan Meckelberg says the show shouldn't have been stopped in the first place, but he'll honor last weekend's tickets at Bad Religion's next concert at the Hollywood Palladium, February 1st.
Hey brother Christian with your high and mighty air, and your action speaks so loud I can't hear a word you're saying. Hey sister, bleeding heart with all of your compassion, your labors soothe the hurt but never sweet temptation. Hey man of science with your perfect rules of measure, can you improve this place with the data that you gather? In honor, mercy, can your lines remember forever? Some fecundity, a travel, a treasure. And I wanna conquer the world.
And that, my fellow Bad Religion fans, is exactly what was needed at the perfect moment in time back in 1990. The ABC News broadcasts were instrumental in delivering Bad Religion, their message, and the punk rock genre to a worldwide audience. 5 newscasts, ABC 7 local eyewitness news, ABC News at 11, which covered Southern California and their affiliates, ABC's Evening News, covered nationally, ABC's World News Tonight, covered internationally, with CNN and MTV News airing clips in their music news reports. Back to you, Roger. Well, there you have it, friends. 4 news reports on a major news network, local, national, and worldwide broadcasts. So let's review, shall we? All right, so the fire marshal shows up and quickly disappears into the crowd. Look at that, would ya? He's gone. He does a Houdini. And of course, right behind the fire marshal, here comes the police department. Would you imagine that? Then she sticks her hand in my camera. And just like that, the concert promoter has to send everybody home. And they weren't happy. A lot of these people were on the KROQ party bus from the OC. And that guy walking right at us with the white helmet, dressed all in black, he's the fire chief. Yep, folks, he's the guy. That's the guy that was calling the shots. He was the dude that approved the use of high-powered fire hoses. I found out in 1998 from a good friend of mine that was a fire chief in Tahunga, California, that this particular fire chief was reprimanded and demoted for giving the order to spray the concert goers with high-powered hoses. It was in the middle of winter, for one, and the temperature this night was in the mid-40s. A lot of city officials' heads were rolling this night. Now, let's keep an eye on this cop to your right. He's barking orders at the firemen. He starts beating up inanimate objects. Let's watch it again, shall we? It's been 34 years since the Bad Religion riot in 1990. All these firemen and police have all since retired. But one thing's for sure, punk rock made them do it.
And I wanna conquer the world, give all the idiots a brand new religion, put an end to poverty, uncleanliness,
If you don't like my apples, make sure that you don't shake my tree.
Well, and just like any great underground punk rock band lacking national, worldwide music publicity, and whose fans just happened to start a riot, MTV News would immediately come a-callin'. Ann Hartmeyer wanted to know about this new band called Bad Religion. She got my number from the ABC assignment desk editor. She told me that she had never heard of this band before and that no one at MTV has heard of them as well. They were not on MTV's radar. I filled her in on who they were. She asked me what label they were on. I told her that they had their own independent label called Epitaph Records. She seemed very interested and asked me to send her a copy of the news footage for their MTV News segments. My rock and roll stage and tour manager friend always made sure I had my credentials. He shared my vision, so much so that during the band's February 1st makeup show, Kevin Lyman, Brett Gurwitz, Greg Graffin, and myself agreed that the house would be dropping their big screen and the ABC News footage would be projected live in front of a sold-out show of 3,500 Bad Religion fans right before the band went on stage. The fans went wild. This turned out to be a pretty cool $1 million marketing and publicity campaign we created with the help of ABC News, the Los Angeles Police, and fire departments. When the show was all over and the fans cleared on out, I asked Brett, "Brett, what'd you think of the show, Brett?"
I like the show.
Yes, definitely a great show. And the one thing I found so intriguing with Bad Religion was the fact that the flyers were proof that they went from a co-headlining band in 1982 to a low act on the bill in 1988. These flyers are the tell. Gary Tovar, the legendary concert promoter and founder of Golden Voice, would ensure that Bad Religion was officially a headlining act from this day forward. They were thrilled with the growing fan base.
It was that crowded here, so it wasn't raining. I know I saw it.
Not only was the show naturally sold out, the attention the band received from the mainstream musical industrial complex during the photo shoot was off the charts. The LA Times, Associated Press, the LA Weekly, and Rolling Stone magazines all taking stage photos of the band for their respective media outlets.
I just want to sniff some glue.
Funny how the band is telling their spiritual advisor, Henry Hanoi Kuzdak, to get out of the photo, you're not in the band.
Hey, Henry, it's not good enough for us. You're not in the band, Henry. Henry rules. This isn't the fucking Channel 7 News. You're not that.
Henry was the guy who told me the inside scoop that the publicity from the ABC News broadcast put the band and Epitaph Records over the top. He told me their CD sales was going through the roof. He mentioned how Brett couldn't keep up with the pallets of CDs and he needed another forklift driver. At the time, I was a supply chain service provider for UPS, or I would have offered to help. The positive visualization was paying off. Both Greg Graffin and Jay Bentley were thrilled. The compliments they gave me while I was behind my camera were well received. As a musician and bass player myself, it was a thrill and well received to hear these great compliments from these guys. Let's have a listen, shall we?
Look at this fucking video buff. What are we doing? No, he's got some good pictures, that's all. I know.
I couldn't help but wonder if this was how my grandfather, Lucky White, must have felt when he got a call from the legendary Les Paul to go on tour with him and his wife, Mary Ford, back in the 1940s. I was embracing this historical time in punk rock history. Greg warmed up to me and the camera, so I naturally tried to get him hooked up with the sweet ladies that were following me around. Greg was amused by my antics. He wrote down his contact information on the back of a business card so that he could get a copy of the riot footage. After the makeup show, Brett gave me his business card for West Beach Recorders. He said if he ever needed to use any of the footage in the future, he'd license it from me. He gave me his direct line, too. At the time, and I'm not one to miss out on an opportunity, the demo to my punk band had been missing since 1986. Otherwise, I would have handed him a copy and said, hey, let's re-record my old punk band's demo at West Beach Recorders. It was the old out of sight, out of mind routine with that one. Not only that, but I would have suggested to record a few covers and or re-release Lucky White's Outlaw Country Western music catalog had I been afforded the information from stingy relatives at the time. Just think, a punk rock version of That Naggin' Wife of Mine from 1946, or Flour Lard Coffee Sugar and Yo-Yo Heart from 1953. Those two songs were recorded with Les Paul. It would have been epic to record covers of those classics at West Beach Recorders back in those days. Hey, you know, it's never too late. Instead, the conversation with Brett leaned towards the riot footage with ABC News and what great publicity it was for his label and the bands at Epitaph. A few years had passed, and the advent of the internet was in full swing. In 1994, I was using Earthlink Networks. Netscape was the search engine at the time. I decided to do some R&D, some research and development, based on a video marketing idea I had. I went online and found a Bad Religion website at the BR page, ran by a guy named Roger Vulture. I posted on the message board asking if anyone would be interested in buying a copy of the Bad Religion Riot video. The results were fantastic. I received close to 20 interested inquiries. So I made an ad and posted my P.O. box using direct email marketing. Sit down, be quiet, don't be an idiot! Shut up, Richard! Yeah! Woo! Woo! Thanks, Richard! I started receiving direct email orders from all over the world for a video product that hadn't been produced, edited, or packaged yet. So I had to find a video editor, an old acquaintance, a legendary videographer named Dave Travis, Pinhead Productions. He was the lucky Pierre on the first run of this project. He did a great job at reasonable rates. Before I met up with Dave, at the time, I was producing custom-made copies from VCR to VCR. I printed my own labels off my printer with sticker printer paper. You can tell in the type of the pixelated quality prints. I purchased stock black VHS jackets at Sammy's Camera. This here's the first prototype of the Bad Religion cover. I used the cut and paste hostage style look for this one. It was a 20-minute runtime with just the raw riot footage and 2 digitally remastered songs from Devonshire Downs. How did all of this come about? Well, 6 months earlier, I was contacted by a source at ABC News telling me that my riot film was in the Pennywise Home Movies video on Epitaph Records. So in December of 1995, I set up a meeting at Epitaph to screen the riot footage for potential use in a Bad Religion video I was interested in producing, and clear up a misunderstanding regarding a legal issue with ABC News. During the meeting, I suggested releasing the riot footage with an authorized bootleg package, including additional concert footage I had shot from the late 1980s into the early 1990s, with additional footage by legendary videographer Video Lewis from 1985 through 1992. I reassured Brett that I would handle any legal issues with ABC News. After the meeting, Brett shook my hand and said, "You can release your riot film on your own without distribution from Epitaph." I thanked him for his time and said, "I'll be in touch." Some time would pass, and I followed up with Brett for reconsideration in June of 1996 after a meeting with Peter Finestone. Peter had expressed interest in possibly distributing the Riot video on his label, called Low Blow Records. He gave me his card and some ideas. He invited me to come see his band Fifi. They naturally made the pages of Flipside magazine in 1997. Gordon, the band's singer, was married to Nina Hagen for like a day or two. Maybe it was longer, but he used to tell me some pretty funny stories. On June 7th, 1996, I got an email from Brett regarding a second proposal for my offer of an authorized bootleg release of the Bad Religion films from 1985 to 1992. It reads as follows. Dear Richard, as you know, I don't feel that the footage, which I have already had the pleasure of viewing, is of commercial quality. Therefore, I wish you the best of luck in finding a home for these tapes. Sincerely, Brett. As intriguing as all of this might be, I thought to myself, wow, ABC World News Tonight, MTV News, and Pennywise obviously thought my Riot film had commercial quality. It was used commercially worldwide. Nevertheless, more orders were coming in from the message boards. I was getting emails from all over the world, as far as Sweden, Italy, Germany, and Australia. Al and Todd from Flipside magazine, Frank from KXLU, Michelle, the band's manager, and on and on and on. I had to file for a business license, set up accounting, secure a tax service with my old video instructor from 1976. Imagine that! I had to find a video reproduction house. So I used American Sound and Video in Burbank, California. Then I had to find a distributor. So I went with Tapeworm Video based in Newhall, California. The interesting part I found in all of this was I was now doing business with companies that I delivered to as a UPS driver. Now I had to come up with something more than a cut and paste hostage style type of graphic for the video cover. My girlfriend at the time, Utica Lynn Zabo, was my graphic artist. She was in charge of the graphics department for LA Access Video Productions. She made the graphics, the posters, and the ads. She did it all, including our release of the NoFX They Suck Live at Al's Bar 2 VHS. We only released 100 units on that video, and the legendary TSOL Live from OC on the VHS DVD formats. Utica got to work on the Bad Religion Riot graphics. We went from hostage garage style to something more camera ready, with more of a production value aspect to it. Only one thing was missing, and that was an image. We had two to choose from, this one or that one. Both photos were taken by punk rock photographer Susan Jones. So we did an image test, and this was the final draft for the release in the USA of the Bad Religion Riot on the VHS format and later on the DVDs. Our next step was to start the advertising campaign. The graphics department had already drafted the posters and the print ads. The print ads were submitted in these issues of Flipside magazine in 1997. These ads were excellent in that they established a solid marketing and advertising campaign for both my brands on my independent video label. In 1999, I would be contacted by Ed Seaman, the president of Music Video Distributors, offering me a national and international distribution deal. It was a no-brainer business decision. I had already sunk $8,000 into this endeavor, self-distributing out of my garage with regional distribution from Tapeworm. The VHS tapes were becoming a thing of the past, too. MVD offered to produce my film on a new format called DVD, Digital Video Disc. When all was said and done, we did a first run of DVDs using the original VHS graphic, then a special edition with a much more sophisticated cover graphic. Other territories released the film as well. I was not involved with the graphics for these DVDs. It appears that each territory did their own cover graphic. Australia, Brazil, and Brazil again looks like they did two versions, Argentina and Chile. You can find these variations over on Discogs. These are the VHS releases from 1995 through 1999. That VHS hostage cut and paste on the left might be of some value. I've only shipped off 20 units with that cover graphic. These are the DVDs from 2001 through 2006. Both of these VHS and DVDs were released in the USA and Canada. It's been close to 2 decades since those were manufactured. I'm thrilled that the VHS and DVDs can still be found in recirculation online at Amazon and other digital platforms. On July 3rd of 1997, the Bad Religion Riot was ranked in the top 500 out of 10 million VHS movie titles at the time. This is how Ed at Music Video Distributors found me and my film. They did a great job of promoting my productions for both Bad Religion and TSOL, live from OC. I had no idea about all this aftermarket resale activity online. Amazon gives the Bad Religion Riot 4 out of 5 stars. The movie database gives it a 0. Oldies.com gives it 3 out of 5 stars. Night Flight gives it a solid 5-star rating. Discogs follows it up with another 5-star rating. And finally, AllMusic gives it 3 out of a 5-star rating. The reviews were solid, way too many to name. Here's 2 from Amazon. This one is from AllMusic. And my favorite from the legendary Mark Deming from the All Movie Guy. I made myself available and followed through with everything I said I was going to do. I even managed to piss some people off during the process, while I delivered 4 and 5-star results to the marketplace. As I put this story together, I remember how Epitaph Records allowed all the action sports companies to use their songs in all of the action sports videos freely, without the traditional archaic corporate licensing the music industry had established decades earlier. That was a brilliant marketing move. Brett allowed me the same favor with the Bad Religion Riot. Perhaps this is the reason why Brett didn't offer me the distribution for a comprehensive project I had been suggesting all those years. Although an endorsement from Brett with Epitaph Records would have been fantastic. The notion that the punk rock riot footage was not of commercial quality kinda seems a bit anti-punk rock. I was still a little taken back from the Rejection too. In hindsight, Brett was busy with an indie label to nurture during its infancy. He was launching the careers of some of the greatest bands, musicians, and talented music industry professionals in this business we call show. What I find intriguing about all of this is some of the music similarities Brett has with my family. As I mentioned earlier regarding country music recording star Lucky White of the 1940s, 50s, and 60s. He had his own touring band with an independent record label in 1953 called White Records. He released his sound recordings, distributing and promoting them using both his radio shows on KPMO Pomona and KWKW 1430 Pasadena, California. He helped launch the music careers of Buck Owens, Little Jimmy Dickens, Leotie Jackson, and the legendary Gordon Terry, way back in the 1940s. Lucky even had a mohawk in 1958 under his cowboy hat, too. The music scene wasn't ready for that fashion show yet. The concert promoters back in those days would kick him off the stage if he wasn't wearing his cowboy hat. Like many country music stars back then, he was hated by Nashville for non-compliance. They banned his music and refused to promote him with a publicity support system. Whether we know it or not, those country boys were punk rock way before punk rock. Just ask Hank 3 about that one. And what would a great story be like without a shameless plug? For all you industry professionals and interested parties seeking more information about Lucky White and his music catalog, visit our GoFundMe campaign. Here's where you can help share, donate, spread awareness within the music industry, regarding the legacy of one of the greatest underrated country western recording stars of all time. Check out the links in the show notes below. As we head towards the off-ramp from this punk rock tale, I've always found it interesting how underground anti-culture always inspires popular culture. Bad Religion was one of many bands I shot video footage for over the years. NoFX did their post-Riot show at a small place called Al's Bar in downtown Los Angeles in January of 1991. I shot live concert videos for the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Jane's Addiction, 9 Inch Nails, and Gwen Stefani, with No Doubt among many others. Even the legendary Dick Clark of American Bandstand was interested in the Bad Religion riot. I was his UPS man over the years and asked him if he could hook me up with a distributor. I was thrilled to get a letter from him. I wouldn't have been surprised if Dick had films of Lucky White performing live on stage with his band. I didn't get rich from the Riot film. With all the time and all the effort, I was happy to barely break even. The releases were very small in scope. I paid over $10,000 to Bad Religion's management team for the licensing on this short-lived endeavor. To be honest, I would have rather had a President of Marketing and Publicity title working for Epitaph Records. Instead, ABC News paid me $200 for the punk rock riot footage. That $200 translated into very successful results for a lot of people. It was worth millions. A Super Bowl ad cost $7 million or more, or a worldwide 30-second commercial spot. Over the years, I've saved hundreds of thousands of dollars bragging about this story all on my own by not hiring the William Morris Agency to brag for me. With that said, I'm truly honored and humbled to help Bad Religion along the way. It was a gift. It was a milestone in punk rock history. We were all there when Bad Religion conquered the world.
I wanna conquer the world.